I know that we all are concerned on how credible the exams are when they are taken online. And I just thought of sharing a few things with you. Probably you're already doing this in your class, but we can look at this together. Timing, number of attempts, shuffling of questions, layout, navigation, and the level of testing as a way to enhance the credibility of our exams and also make sure that these exams are not cheap just because they are online. So I want to go to my e-learning class here and attempt to create an exam here. So let me start by adding a week here. This is what most of us do. You can just use this and write exams or final exams. Then we go to activity or resource and look for quiz. This is what most of us are doing. Then end of semester exam or final, end of semester exam. You can provide some description here, instructions and all that. If you provide instructions here, remember to tick or check this, without which this will not be visible. So the very first control that we need to put in place is the timing here. And the question here is this from two perspectives. If I just save this exam without doing anything on timing, immediately it will be visible to my students. So part of why this is important is because it hides the exam until the specified time. So first I will enable this and enable this and specify when this exam should be visible. So I could pick a day which is way ahead, like 28th. Close date, not a problem. You just need to specify a date that is after this. So of course this exam will be closing on the same day. This will be guided by the exam timetable. Supposing my exam is on 28th at 9, then that's what I do. And then the next important thing, this shows that the exam will be open from 9 to 2. But what is the time limit? How long do I have, or does a student have, when they start attempting your exam? And this is key and would be based on the nature and the number of questions that you have. We cannot have the exam open for all this time, and the questions are not don't require that much time. So think of this, enable it. How many minutes does a student need when they start doing this exam? So I could set this to like 1 hour. So 1. So look at how this works, both of these three settings, because they are key. Yes, the exam is open between 9. Let me actually use, the figures that we use at day star. Let's assume at 9 and ends at 11. But when a student starts this, they have 1 hour to finish it. That means even if a student comes as late as 10 and they start doing it, they can finish it at 11. So we have taken care of two things. When is the exam available? And for what duration will it be available for a given student when they start doing this? This setting here is very important. What should happen supposing time expires when the student is still writing or doing the exam? And it is important to always set it to this option. Whatever work that student had done by the time the time expired, let that be submitted automatically. So that's the first time, control that you have. The exam is not open throughout the day and there is time limit for doing this. The next thing I wanted us to look at is the number of attempts, because if we don't specify how many times a student can retake this exam, it's possible that I finish the first attempt within 30 minutes and take another attempt and take another one before time is up. So we need to go under grade right here and set the number of attempts to 1, especially for the final exam. Otherwise, a student can take this exam as many times as they want, and on your side, you'll only see the highest grade. So set that to 1. A student can only take this exam once. That is the second control we are putting in place. The next one is under layout. Let's talk about that. Layout. How will the questions appear as the student is taking this exam? So we can go there, and the question here is, how many questions can I see at once in my page, as I'm doing this exam? And you can imagine what happens if the student can see all the questions, even when they are in question 1. There is a high probability that they'll be tempted to cheat, and therefore it is important that you set this every question so that yes, every question. And what this means is that for every question there will be a page. That means a student can only see one question at a time. One question at a time. That is on the layout. Now there's more, and when you go to show more here, there is one more aspect that we can look at, which can help us put in a number of controls. You have 30 questions in your exam. Can a student who is in question number 5 go back to question 4? Or does the system prevent them from going back to question 4? So this is the option that we have to fix or set that. Free means you can move from any question to any question. I can click on 4, I can go to 3, I can go to 7, but when you set it to sequential, it means you cannot go back to a question that you've already answered. Whereas this option is good because, sometimes it's when students are done doing the exam from the beginning to the end, when they realize that they now have time that they want to go and refer to some sources and come back to those questions. This will be a good option to stop that. But even though this helps with that, it's important at the beginning where you have the instructions or the description here, let the students know that once you navigate from a question, you cannot go back from it because it is not the norm. Most of them expect that you can go back to a question after answering it. So that we are fair, if you change this to sequential, make sure that you mention that in your instructions here, just so that we take care of anyone who had a different expectation. The next one is on shuffling of questions. Supposing our students, we had 2 students doing this exam seated next to each other, can we make sure that my number 1 question is not the number 1 question for the next student? And that is possible right here under question behavior. You can set this to shuffle within questions, and by default that is set to yes, so that immediately when we start this exam, I might be looking at question 20, the next person could be looking at question 5, and this helps a lot. So take note of that, shuffling of questions. That's key. What have we not talked about? We've talked about shuffling of questions, number of attempts, timing, layout, navigation, then the level of testing. And I think we have availed a number of tools to just make sure that we are able to test different aspects of learning. And most of us can do quizzes, true and false answers, all that. But you also have easy questions, which I think maybe a number of us know how to use them. So I just do an easy question here. So add new question, then select essay, and then question number 34, any unique value here, and you can have a question here. Explain the process of, it's not a multiple choice question, it's an explanation question that requires students to type. You can provide the mark here, 10, but of course we know that this type of question will not be auto-graded. You will need to grade it yourself. You can provide the input size, the space that students have to respond to this question, depending on the amount of text that you expect that they put in here. So 25 lines, 40 lines, as much as you want. Now that works. They're able to explain everything there, and you can look at it and mark that. But this is also helpful in a number of other ways. For example, I could change this and use an MS Word document, document, explain, all the writing that you want, then upload the file. So they will do all the work, then upload the file, and then that means now we need to allow attachment here so that they can attach the files. Just one, because it will be a single document. Attachments are optional. Right now they are not, because that's how they answer this question. So one file, it's compulsory that you attach one file. You can even go ahead and set the type of file that you want, but we can leave that as is. If you needed to choose, you would go to, we are looking for application files, which are either Word, PDF. You can choose the specific file that you want students to attach. I'm looking for MS Word. Okay, let's start from here. Not all types. Presentation, that's PPT. Okay, let me see if I get MS Word as fast as I think I should get it. DOC. Okay, I'm not sure I'm gonna get it as fast. But here you can choose the type of file that you want. Right here, document files. So you can select document files, and that is to be very specific, docs, and you can expand these and choose what you want. If it's PDF only, you can do that, but you don't need to worry about that. As is now, the student will understand that you want this done on MS Word, and that is what will be attached, which is one attachment, and that's compulsory, and that needs to be attached. And you can save that so that you have both multiple choice, true and false, and all those other low level learning questions to test those low aspects of learning, but also you have a way to test those open-ended questions that you might have. So right here, once a student is done doing the work, they will attach it here, and you're able to grade it. Those are some of the aspects that I thought we needed to talk about as we go into the exam period. Remember those controls again: timing, number of attempts, shuffling of questions, layout, one question on each page, navigation, is it free or sequential, should they come back to a question after they leave it, level of testing, explore all the different tools so that you are testing every other level of learning, and especially depending on the nature of the course and the level of course. Thank you.